The lights dim again. The floor slopes downward. A distant thump echoes through stone, organic, heavy, wet. Johnson's jaw tightens around the cigarette. He hasn't smoked since they crashed. Commander, that didn't sound mechanical. Keyes answers quietly. No, it didn't. THEF, IRS, TSIGNS. A smear on the wall. Brownish green. Ropey. TK 7609 kneels, keeping his rifle trained down the corridor. Is this Covenant? No, Keyes whispers. The Covenant bleed clean. This is something else. The smear pulses slightly when touched by light. Marin recoils. Did that thing move? It's the ventilation. Johnson lies without even looking. He doesn't believe it. Not for a second. They keep moving. The corridors widen again into a chamber filled with hanging containment pods, fist-sized translucent canisters, suspended on grav lines. Cracked, more than a few shattered. Johnson studies the debris. These ain't egg sacs, but damn if they don't look like something was stored in them. TK 3274 wipes condensation from a lens. Whatever they held looks like it broke out. Marin whispers, then where the hell is it? The silence answers. THEF, IRS, TC, ONT, a CT. A metal clatter behind them. Something skitters. Fast. Johnson spins, shotgun up. Nothing. Then a wet, sucking sound overhead, like boots peeling off mud. TK 7609 angles his helmet upward, and a shape drops from the ceiling, straight onto Marin. A flood infection form. Lore, accurate, merciless, a tentacled horror the size of a basketball, all spine, twitching nerves, and blind hunger. It hits Marin's visor with a slap, seeking cracks, drilling forward. Marin screams, flailing. Johnson fires once too late. The infection form punctures the neck seal, forcing itself inside the armor. Marin's body convulses violently, arms spasming, helmet slamming the ground. TK 7609 stumbles back. What WHATWASTHAT? Keyes doesn't answer. He can't, because Marin's body just twitched again, and not the way a dying man twitches. Johnson grabs Keyes' arm. Commander, we need to move. But Marin is rising. Arms dangling wrong, head twisted at an angle that suggests the bones inside have melted into something else. His visor cracks outward as something swollen pushes from behind the faceplate. TK 7609 fires, reflexively 3 shots to the chest. No effect. Johnson empties the shotgun into it, blowing out Marin's sternum. That stops him, but doesn't kill him. The thing inside simply writhes, trying to drag its puppet forward. Keyes whispers, this is a containment facility. TK 3274 fires into the ceiling. THEN W YD ID YUBRING USHERE. Keyes barks, MOVE NOW THEFLOODARIVE. They run, but the flood move faster. Shapes emerge from recesses, silhouettes of former Marines, former Covenant, former something else, all twisted, swollen, limbs reshaped into weapons of bone and muscle. Every step produces a squelch against the floor. TK 7609 fires down the hallway, hitting 3. They barely slow down. Johnson grabs him by the collar and drags him backward as Keyes lays down controlled bursts. The flood don't scream. They rush in silence, the silence of things that remember enough biology to stalk prey, but not enough to be human. Thebottleneck. They reach a stairwell descent, a tight choke point, a gift. Keyes orders, hold the line. TK 3274 kneels, blaster steady. His shots punch smoking pits into flood biomass, slowing some of them. But the crawler's small infection forms swarm from the flanks, dozens scrabbling over the walls, floor, ceiling. Johnson shouts, "Focus fire." Don't let them close. They don't. And still the flood advance. TK 7609 tries to reload, but an infection form leaps, latching onto his exposed hip joint. He screams, slams against the wall, fingers clawing at his armor. Keyes shoots the form, but a second is already on him. TK 7609 vanishes under a carpet of parasites. His screams break, then gurgle, then stop. TK 3274 breathes ragged through his helmet. "Commander, we can't win this." Keyes knows. And he knows what command would expect. He pulls a frag grenade. Johnson grabs his wrist. "Sir, we can't let them reach the surface. Sir, look LOOK." Down the corridor behind them wider, deeper, the infected bodies are forming a wall of flesh, tendrils rising, merging their biology into a single, advancing mass. There is no fighting this, only slowing it. Keyes nods to Johnson. "Buy me 10 seconds. Johnson nods back. "You got 5. THEENDOFKEYESSQUD. The flood hit like a tidal wave. Johnson fires until the shotgun clicks empty, then wields it like a club, smashing in a skull bursting with infected growth. TK 3274 empties his last power pack. Then a zealot form flood, once an elite, now monstrous, grabs him by the throat and lifts him from the ground. The stormtrooper kicks, gasps, then is silenced as bone spikes punch through the plastoid. The grenade goes off. Corridor shudders, collapsing part of the ceiling. Enough to slow the horde, barely. Johnson yells, "COMMAER. GO." Keyes runs. He runs because he has to warn command, because he has seen truth, and it has teeth. He runs until infection forms leap from vents, from walls, from the floor, and swarm him. Keyes disappears under the mass. Johnson hesitates, rifle raised, then sees the truth. There's no rescue. He turns and runs. THELAS, TSTORMTROPER. One survived. TK 3274's partner TK 1342 had been separated earlier in the tunnels, lost in a side corridor. He hears the gunfire. He hears the screams. He hears something wet, skittering. But he doesn't go back. He runs into the darkness, alone. Blaster low, breath short, heart stomping panic into his ribs. Behind him, he hears something crawling in pursuit. Then, another sound, soft, mechanical, watching. The monitor gliding silently through the dark. TK 1342 sprints into the blackness. He's never seen again. Not by anything that still calls itself alive. The surface battle is a furnace, white hot, unceasing, and the galaxy is busy grinding both empires into mulch. But the real fracture in the day happens when the expected voices go silent. Kais, Johnson, their squad, and those 3 stray stormtroopers who followed them underground. Master Chief registers it the way a stone registers pressure, no outward motion, but a change in the grain. Vader feels it like a short in a power conduit, a sudden drop, the unmistakable snap of lives erased. A comm tech near the Spartan yells over the chaos, still nothing from Key's channel. "Sir, he's been dark for 16 minutes. Chief doesn't answer. There's no point wasting breath on a fact that already metastasized into danger. Vader, several meters away, stands unbothered by the plasma bolts hissing past him. Stormtroopers fire in disciplined volleys, white armor carbon scored and smeared with methane-tainted soil. Marines bark half-panicked corrections. Far above, a pair of TIE fighters scream through the sky, only to be lanced down by banshees in tight spirals. 2 more TIEs make bombing runs, dropping green ion payloads that crater Wraith column, but the Covenant returns fire with vicious precision. Ghosts carve up troopers trying to reposition. A grunt fuel rod shot liquefies a Marine's legs. It's ugly, real ugly. Then something changes. A ripple runs through the Covenant line. Brutes shove jackals aside. Elites bark orders in their harsh, liquid growl. Ghosts reverse thrust. Wraiths pivot their plasma mortars away from the humans. Are they withdrawing? A Marine says, disbelief overriding fear. Chief's visor tracks movement. They aren't falling back with order. They're fleeing. Vader's head tilts the slightest degree. He's reading the panic, the way somebody might smell rot familiar, unmistakable. There is a disturbance, he says, voice low, modulated, and carved from bedrock. Not fear of us. Chief glances toward him. Keys. The single word is enough between them. They move. Stormtroopers fall in behind Vader, grateful for the dark gravity of him. Marines cluster to Chief's silhouette, desperate for the competence. The 2 advance in a line of steel and purpose, while overhead the sky cracks with a new chorus Covenant dropships powering away from the battlefield like they've seen a ghost behind the humans. And then radio static. A frequency Chief knows. It's a fragment. Warped. Wet. Kai's surrounded, not Covenant. Then a sound that has no place in any sane taxonomy. Something like lungs filling where lungs shouldn't exist. The channel dies. A Marine stumbles. What was that? What the hell was that? Chief keeps moving. Vader's stride accelerates. They descend the ramp toward the access doors. Keys entered hours earlier. Bodies mark the approach. Shredded Marines. A stormtrooper whose armor is punctured by spikes as though something blossomed outward from inside him. Vader pauses, not in hesitation, but in analysis. His gloved hand hovers inches above the corpse. This one died screaming, he murmurs. The agony is recent. Chief's finger taps the side of his helmet. Motion sensors picking up movement. Multiple. Fast. The door ahead flickers, energy failing. Something heavy slams it from the inside. Metal bows. A squeal like a birthing animal echoes through the corridor. And Vader, for all his lifetime of horrors, still feels an instinctive wrongness. This is not rebellion, not insurgency, not war. This is infection. On the other side was once human, once marine, now swollen, pulped, bearing too many limbs, and not enough recognition behind its twitching head. Its movements snap with an insect's efficiency. Tendrils reach. The stench of rot and misfolded biology hits them like a wall. Vader reacts, first blade igniting with a hungry roar as he cleaves the creature in half. It screeches in two voices. Both die mid-wail. Chief fires in disciplined bursts, shredding a carrier form that staggers behind it and detonates in a cloud of infection spores. His shield flares. "Vader," Chief says, backing into formation beside him. "These weren't alive a few minutes ago. Then we will burn them before they rise again." And deeper in the corridor, something big moves. Fast. The stormtroopers falter. They aren't built for this. Their blasters feel like toys against the sound of skittering limbs and the wet slap of reanimated flesh. A scream echoes from far inside. A stormtrooper's voice. The lone survivor of Key's escort, crying out before it's cut short by a gurgled choke. Vader steps forward, cloak trailing through blood and thickening spores. "This place," he says, hungers. Chief primes a grenade. Then we break its teeth. No clean heroism waits for them here, only the labyrinth below. The absence of Commander Key's voice, and a new enemy that kills the soul before the body. The war above was brutal. The one down here is existential. And as they descend into the dark where the flood waits, the galaxy begins to tilt towards something far worse than the Covenant. Their next steps carry them straight into it. The first sign isn't sound, it's silence. That's the part that punches Vader's first silence, where a battle should be roaring. The Covenant lines in front of him collapse, not from sustained UNSC fire, not from Imperial precision, but from something behind them. Something pushing them toward retreat. Even elites, those arrogant, ritual-hungry zealots, stumble backward, firing wildly down the ravine that leads to the lower structure. Chief hears the sudden chorus of Covenant comms screaming over the open channels. Vader hears only fear. Fear is a smell to him. A thermal distortion in the Force. A tremor, sharp, frantic. And every single Covenant signature below them is screaming the same thing. Run. A stormtrooper near Chief catches the moment before understanding. "Sir, why the hell are they falling back? We've got them pinned." No one answers, because that's when the first infected Sankaili staggers into view. The transformation is grotesquely efficient muscles ballooned in unnatural symmetry, chest cracked open like a maw, tendrils twitching as they taste the air. Its armor hangs like a memory. Combat form carries a plasma rifle as naturally as breathing, but now its aim is predatory, not trained. It opens fire instantly. Plasma cuts through 3 Marines before they process the shape. Chief shoots clean, center mass 3 bursts of the Ma-5. It keeps coming. He switches to a controlled burst at the infection form swollen in its ribs. That finally drops it. Vader watches the thing die with an analytical chill. This enemy does not behave like anything he has fought, not rebels, not Jedi, not insurgencies. This is coordinated biological militarization, a collective mind with infinite bodies. In the Force, it feels like a screaming, hungry fog. "That is not natural," a stormtrooper whispers behind him. "Lord Vader, what is that?" Vader gives the facts blunt and merciless. An organism that consumes without limit. Focus or you die. The trooper steadies, barely. A Marine comtech approaches Chief through heavy fire. Still no contact from Captain Keyes, sir. Last ping was 90 minutes ago. Nothing since. Chief doesn't react emotionally. He never does. But Johnson's voice comes in over-cracked signal, shaky with strain. We found something down here. Chief, damn thing's sealed for a reason. Static tears the rest away. Even Vader's enhanced auditory sense can't retrieve more than fragments. Chief moves immediately. Vader, we're going down. Vader doesn't bristle at being spoken to as an equal. He doesn't have space for ego right now. You intend to walk into whatever extinguished an entire Covenant company? Chief reloads, yes. Vader ignites his saber. Then we proceed. The remaining stormtroopers follow, though every one of them knows they're marching into something far worse than plasma fire. In the Force, Vader senses minds, not individual minds, but a chorus. Millions of voices braided into one will, one instinct, acquisition. It's vast. It's organized. And it's growing. The first hallway shows the extent of it. A jackal combat form lies in a twisted arc, spine inverted backward, claws reforged into stabbing tools. It died mid-mutation, ripped apart by something stronger before it finished morphing. A Marine whispers, God, these things kill each other too. Chief answers with tactical truth. They optimize. If a host isn't useful, they discard it. The stormtrooper nearest Vader mutters, this isn't war, it's harvesting. Vader responds without looking. Fear slows you. Control it. But even he's shaken. He recognizes military discipline in the arrangement of bodies. The flood didn't just kill, they created cover. They dragged corpses into strategic elevation, forming firing nests. They're not a mindless swarm. They're a learning organism, rehearsing tactics in real time. A burst of plasma screams down the hallway, shot by a human combat form, wearing shredded UNSC fatigues. The trooper who fires back freezes mid-shot. Sir, that's a stormtrooper. It is, or it was. The armor is cracked open by infection talons. The helmet is fused to a bulbous mass, one eyepiece cracked from internal pressure. Fingertips are gone, replaced with chitinous extensions built for gripping. The creature raises its E-11 blaster with mechanical precision. It fires a perfect 3-round burst. Lore accurate. Terrifyingly efficient. Chief puts it down with a grenade, splattering infection biomass across the walls. The trooper who spoke steps back, trembling. That was Jex. He was on Blue Squad. He had a kid. Vader cuts him off sharply. That was not your comrade. That was a weapon wearing his corpse. Cruel, yes, but true. And the trooper steadies from the truth, not from comfort. Corridor ahead lights up with distant voices, Keyes' voice repeating a transmission that cannot exist, layered in 3 other languages simultaneously. It shouldn't be possible. It's the flood using neural tissue as a speaker. Chief freezes. He knows what this means. Vader listens with deeper perception and feels the mind behind the echo. The grave mind is not awake, but it is dreaming. And its dreams are already reaching. A nearby stormtrooper hears something else whispers, forming coherent Imperial basic inside his helmet, even though his comm is off. Join us. He rips his helmet off, panicked, hurling it down the hall. It echoes like a death knell. The flood attack in coordinated flanking patterns, 2 on the ceiling, 3 running along the walls, 1 firing from behind a makeshift barricade of corpses. They've used Covenant, human, and Imperial bodies to create firing lanes. Chief's shields flare and pop under combined plasma and EE-11 fire. Vader's saber becomes a cyclone of red motion efficient, not cinematic. He cuts 2 forms down, but a third rushes from the blind side with a needler. The needles detonate against his armor. His suit hisses, compensating. A stormtrooper tries to retreat and gets grabbed, dragged into the dark. His scream doesn't last long. Another trooper fires desperately, hitting a Flood Marine form center mass 5 times. It keeps coming, lumbering forward as its ribcage pulses with infection sacs. Chief shoots those sacs. The thing collapses, but 2 more drop from the ceiling to take its place. By the time they reach the inner chamber where Keyes made his last transmission, only 3 stormtroopers remain. 1 is bleeding heavily, 1 is barely coherent, and 1, the one who will eventually run, keeps checking the shadows like they're chewing through the walls. They see the remains of Keyes' command squad. They see the smears of biomass. They see what Keyes became no heroism, no noble sacrifice. Just assimilation. Vader absorbs it all through the Force, like static one mind becoming another mind, becoming a chorus. This enemy is a plague with strategy, he mutters. Not hunger, intention. Chief responds flatly, we need to leave. When the next wave hits silent, fast, coordinated, it's too much. Chief pulls the injured trooper by the collar. Vader blocks the corridor with collapsing supports, using telekinesis. 2 stormtroopers are taken, instantly dragged under a tide of limbs and biomass. The last trooper hesitates, staring into a vent shaft. Chief shouts, "Move!" But the trooper is already scrambling into the dark, panic overriding all training. He vanishes into a maze of maintenance ducts, guided by nothing but terror. He never rejoins the group. He doesn't die on screen. He simply disappears into the dark, running deeper into the ring. Chief and Vader burst out of the last service access of the lower structure, like men stepping out of a drowning lung. No triumphant music, no heroic framing, just 2 exhausted, blood-slicked warhorses climbing into a world that has gotten noticeably worse in the short time they were underground. The sky is wrong. Smoke pillars stack across the horizon like black ribs. Banshees streak overhead in retreat, patterns erratic, uneven, the kind that says our command chain doesn't exist anymore. And beneath them, TIE fighters are locked in savage air-to-air combat, but the sky itself seems to be pulling apart with chaotic motion. Chief's visor logs dozens of new flood signatures erupting across the terrain. They're surfacing. They're growing. Vader steps forward, takes in everything at once, and snaps open a channel to the Executor with a clipped edge that means lives are about to be traded. Executor, this is Lord Vader. Engage bombardment sector Theta 9 immediately. He rarely raises his voice. He never needs to. It's the tone that carries weight, a razor's edge between control and annihilation. The Executor's bridge responds with disciplined panic just beneath the protocol. Lord Vader, we detect heavy Covenant presence near that sector. Then you will remove them. Direct, cold, surgical. An emergent biological force is consuming the battlefield. The Covenant are no longer the priority. There's dead silence on the channel, the kind where an entire superstar destroyer's command crew collectively decides they don't need every detail to obey. Vader feels their fear across the void, But this time, it isn't directed at him. It's directed at whatever he has just declared worth glassing. Chief is already analyzing the terrain, mapping shortest extraction routes, checking remaining ammo, checking blast radii. Logic and instinct welded together. Bombardment won't stop the flood, Chief states. Vader already knows. Vader knows too well. He felt that colossal mind down there, still forming but already probing. You grasp their nature. I saw enough, Chief answers. So did you. He's not being dramatic. He's being literal. The Force still tastes of that mind, the whispering hunger spreading in branching patterns. Up in orbit, the Executor's bridge trembles, not from impact, but from the shudder of its own guns spinning to life. The gunnery chief stands at the forward viewport, watching the halo ring arc beneath them in impossible curvature. The scale is disorienting, like trying to bombard a continent shaped like a god's wedding ring. Concussion missile batteries primed. Turbolasers charging. Standing by. The Admiral steps beside him, pale under bridge lighting. You heard, Lord Vader. Fire. The first salvo streaks out blue-white bolts, cutting into the ring world's valley. The impact is harsh, clean, surgical. Entire canyons erupt. Forests vanish. Structures fracture. The ground convulses as sections of the ring destabilize from orbital shock. And in the fireball, the scanners show it. Movement. Shifting. Spreading. Sir, the gunnery chief mutters. What we're hitting, it's still expanding. The Admiral doesn't respond. He simply watches the expanding pattern and understands why Vader didn't sound triumphant. This thing doesn't fear fire. On the ground, the bombardment slams into the valley behind Chief, and Vader massive concussive shockwaves, ripping trees out of the soil. Soil liquefies under their boots. The terrain buckles. Chief stabilizes his stance, cutting through debris like it's weather. Vader holds his balance through telekinetic reinforcement, but even he has to brace. This is the first time the Imperials have ever fired at full power against something they don't understand. It shows. Chief shouts over the roar. We need to split. Vader turns sharply. Explain. I'm going for the Pillar of Autumn. We destroy the ship, detonate the engines. It'll destabilize the ring. We take the flood with it. Vader considers it in an instant. Logic, flawless. Morality, irrelevant. But strategy, sound. If you fail, Vader warns, the flood will consume this system and then find the next. Chief nods once. Then I won't fail. And here's the honest, brutal truth. Vader doesn't try to follow. Not out of pride, not out of disagreement, but because he knows tactically that Chief will move freer without a Sith Lord altering every encounter. And Vader himself needs to oversee the orbital destruction. More importantly, they both know something unspoken. If this ring awakens, the flood won't be the only thing unleashed. Vader turns to the LZ. Troopers, fall back to the extraction point. The remaining stormtroopers sprint. Some fall. Some don't get up. But the ones who remain cling to formation, because Vader's presence is a gravity well order in the middle of biological chaos. Chief breaks into a full sprint in the opposite direction, moving with a grim, calculated urgency. He has no illusions. He's not saving everyone. He's ending everything to stop something worse. Vader stops, sensing Chief's presence one last time through the violent storm of the battlefield. He doesn't shout. He simply says, Spartan. Chief turns slightly. Bring this structure down. Chief's visor tilts up just enough to acknowledge, and then he disappears into dust, fire, and the splintered forest heading toward the Pillar of Autumn. Vader marches toward his shuttle, surrounded by escorting troopers who don't understand what they just survived. None of them do. Not yet. But the Executor does. Its sensors don't lie. Whatever is growing on the ring is spreading faster than the bombardment can erase it. This isn't a war. It's a countdown. The ring is destabilizing, and everyone Imperial and UNSC feels it. None of this plays heroic. None of it is neat. This is the grim, sensible reality of two militaries watching a superstructure the size of a small moon dissolve into apocalyptic geometry. Let's take it from both ends, tightly interwoven. The bridge of the Executor isn't built for trembling. It's built to project absolute dominance. But as the view screens flood with real-time scans of the ring's interior rupture, there's a look that travels across the entire command crew like a cold tide. Not awe, not shock, just raw, primate-level fear. A junior lieutenant clamps a hand over her mouth as they watch a flood-controlled mass, once a Covenant cruiser, crawl along the interior surface like a tumor trying to build wings. The Executor's last volley disintegrates it. "Gods," someone whispers. "Imperial officers don't talk like that. Not on duty. Not ever." The Admiral doesn't reprimand him. He can't. He flinches as another section of the ring buckles and collapses into vacuum. The structure groans in silence, and the sensors translate it as seismic shocks rippling along the megastructure's backbone. "Lord Vader," the Admiral manages, voice cracking in a way that would have ended his career anywhere else. "We are seeing structural failures across the entire ring." Vader stands centered in the command pit, silent, immovable. His mask doesn't show it, but the force around him is tight as a clenched fist. An officer shouts, "We're losing ground troops. Multiple stormtrooper detachments, no signal, no vitals." Another chimes in, "Flood biomass spreading across secondary impact craters, sir. It's eating the bombardment." The Admiral turns to Vader. "We should withdraw." "Not yet." Vader's voice cuts like a vibroblade. "The Spartan is not clear." The crew exchange looks. The man they feared is delaying the only sane decision they have left for a single soldier of another species. It makes no sense. But then, nothing about this day has. And no one challenges him. Chief moves with purpose, but the landscape is pure nightmare. The Halo's internal weather systems are failing winds, howl against buckling terrain. Fragments of the ring's inner shell fall like burning snow. He encounters a stormtrooper squad near a collapsed ravine. 3 men, still standing, 2 wounded, 1 crawling away without his rifle. The nearest trooper looks at Chief as if he's a lifeline. "We Commander Vader said to retreat sector loss flood." He's shaking so hard he can barely speak. Chief studies him a moment, sees the pupils blown wide with fight or flight overload, sees the trembling in his trigger finger. "Get to high ground," Chief orders. "Find cover. Move now." They run not because he shouted, but because his calm makes the situation worse. Calm means certainty. Certainty means these men are about to die unless they move. Chief continues through a ruined gully, stepping over bodies UNSC Marines, stormtroopers, Covenant. Flood spore sacs pulse on some of them, twitching like meat balloons ready to burst. He keeps moving. A Marine corporal helmet gone, face streaked with blood, slams into him in full panic. Chief, where Keys is gone. Everyone's gone. Something's coming up through the tunnels. It's... Chief stabilizes her by the arm. Pull back to the autumn. Evic roots are open behind me. She nods, sobbing uncontrollably, and bolts. Chief doesn't watch her go. He has one mission: get to the ship. He climbs a ridge and sees it, the pillar of autumn, half buried in the fractured landscape, smoking like a dying engine. The ground beneath it glows from subsurface energy surges. The ring is cracking. He sprints. An alarm blares across the bridge. A young nav officer shouts. Gravitational shear is rising. Ring. Instability is forming a collapse vortex. Translation: the halo is about to tear itself apart, and the shockwave will take them with it. Lord Vader, the Admiral pleads, we must retreat, or we will be caught in the implosion. Vader watches the sensors, watches Chief's transponder. It flickers, but it's still moving. Maintain position, Vader commands. The Admiral nearly collapses. Fear, fatigue, and the surreal pressure of the moment all break his military posture. Why? Vader doesn't answer. He simply watches the inevitable approach. He reaches the access ramp. Wreckage forms a makeshift tunnel. He moves through it quickly, efficiently, every step heavy, deliberate. Inside, the ship feels like a crypt. Emergency lights. Smoke. Fire slowly chewing through the walls. Cortana's voice comes through his helmet as he reaches the engine room. Welcome back, Chief. I assume you have a plan. Detonate the engines. Of course you do. He moves through the familiar corridors, each step bringing him closer to the heart of the ship and to the end of this ring. Behind him, the ring's surface fractures again, another quake rocking the entire structure. The countdown begins. Another officer screams, ring structure destabilizing. We have to go. And finally, Vader moves. Helm, pull us back. Full power. The Executor lurches, massive engines firing as the vessel claws away from the ring. The gravitational vortex is growing, swirling like a cosmic whirlpool. The ship trembles violently, alarms screaming. The pillar of autumn explodes. Light tears across the void. The shock wave expands, ripping through the ring. The entire structure fractures like a colossal porcelain disc thrown at the ground. Segments peel outward. Huge arcs of terrain drift into space. Fire and broken geometry unravel in a breathtaking, horrifying bloom. The bridge officers stare, faces bathed in the impossible light, pupils shrinking to pinpricks. Jump, the Admiral orders. Jump to hyperspace now. Vader does not give the order, but he does not stop it. The Executor's hyperdrive tears open a crimson corridor, violent, unstable, firing without calculation. The dying ring reaches for them, fragments, gravity shear, the last glare of a dead civilization. And then they snap away. Just before the stars stretch into hyperspace, Vader sees it. The ring, once serene, mathematical, perfect, shattering in a bright scream of fire and dust, collapsing into the void like a dying thought. And then it's gone. No fanfare, no victory, just survival. And the Executor is alone again in its own galaxy, carrying a story no one will ever truly believe. Vader's perspective. The Dark Lord's usual calm, calculating mind is disrupted, rattled in a way that only truly alien events can do. He watches the ring's destruction from the Executor's bridge, the tremor of gravitational pull and radiation scraping the edges of their sensors. He feels powerless, a sensation he has rarely, if ever, known. Every instinct honed through conquest, every lesson in fear and control, fails to adequately register what just occurred. The flood creatures that could think, strategize, adapt bodies of soldiers and elites, their forms and movements grotesque yet horrifyingly intelligent. Vader's mind races. No Sith technique, no lightsaber, no force manipulation could have contained that. He feels a grudging, reluctant recognition of John 117's brilliance. The human acted with singular logic, determinism, and sacrifice. The destruction of the Pillar of Autumn wasn't merely tactical, it was categorical. Vader registers this without any notion of reverence. He catalogs it as efficiency, brilliant, cold, and unflinching. Yet there's unease in him. Even with the Executor's might, he's not sure he could have survived alone on the ring's surface. He considers the stormtroopers, the ones who survived the skirmishes, their expressions frozen in terror. The majority have no words, cannot process what they've seen. Vader notes the fragility of human and clone psyches when faced with a truly alien, adaptive enemy. He recognizes fear, trauma, and the beginnings of psychological shattering. Stormtroopers' perspective. A handful remain scattered across the bridge and decks of the Executor. Their senses are overwhelmed by sight, sound, and experience. One thinks, almost abstractly, of the wraiths, the brutes, the hunters, the flood. None of it is comparable to anything in Imperial history. The humans, the monsters, the everything, mutters one, voice cracking over comms. His armor is scorched, weapons barely operational, and he feels the weight of comrades lost in grotesque ways. Bodies have been torn, corrupted, used against each other. The flood's intelligence haunts his mind even though he never fully saw them. He felt them anticipate every move. Some of the surviving stormtroopers are silent, shivering, scanning corridors for threats that are no longer there. One mutters, quietly, we didn't win. We didn't survive. There is no pride here, only the heavy thrum of adrenaline, slowly giving way to shock. Executor crew perspective. The bridge officers, gunners, and navigation staff are shell-shocked. Their screens still show debris, ruptures, gravity spikes. They are witnessing the remnants of a halo ring in its last throes, an event they cannot categorize. The communications officer tries to relay data, but even the most seasoned navigators have no frame of reference. The Emperor's empire seems distant, irrelevant. The crew feels a dangerous blend of awe and terror. They had fought star systems, faced superweapons, navigated nebulae thick with death. Nothing in their experience compares to the living nightmare they witnessed. Whispers circulate. That was alive. It was thinking it knew what we'd do before we did. We're lucky we survived. Vader, uncharacteristically, allows the crew a brief silence. No orders are issued beyond warp out. Even his authority cannot counteract the shock. The galactic might of the Empire is irrelevant against something so alien. Vader, reflecting on Chief's actions, he recognizes the human's strategic mind. Chief's actions were precise, inevitable, and necessary. Unlike the Empire's usual tactics, which involve overwhelming force and terror, Chief relied on intellect, timing, and sacrifice. Vader mentally files this. Efficiency in combat, intelligence in calculation, ruthlessness without malice. This is not hero worship. Vader does not do that, but he cannot dismiss it. There is respect in understanding. Chief operated in a theater Vader has never encountered and succeeded, where even he could not imagine surviving. Yet Vader also feels unease, a grudging acknowledgement of the unpredictability of sentient life. The flood, the ring, the covenant, all these elements lie outside the Empire's understanding. For the first time, Vader experiences an alien factor that cannot be crushed through intimidation or power. Post-event psychological landscape. Stormtroopers, shaken, traumatized. Some may suffer permanent psychological damage. Their understanding of warfare fundamentally altered. Executor crew, in awe, terrified, uncertain if galactic order has meaning beyond the narrow confines of their previous experience. Vader, mentally cataloging, analyzing, disturbed yet calculating, respects Chief's logic and efficiency, but unsettled by the unpredictability and intelligence of the flood. The hum of the Executor's engines is deafening in its monotony. Vader sits on the bridge, mask still intact, but the weight in his chest is unfamiliar. He studies the starfield outside, yet his mind keeps returning to the ring. The images are burned into his consciousness, steel and bioforms twisted by an alien intelligence, soldiers he could have counted on turned into weapons against themselves. The flood not merely creatures, but tactical predators. They adapted. They learned. They predicted. They used the bodies of the living as instruments. Nothing in the Jedi texts, nothing in the Sith archives could have prepared me for that. He recalls Chief's decision to destroy the Pillar of Autumn. Efficiency, logic, ruthlessness. No hesitation. No drama. This human acted with clarity, knowing the cost. Vader's mind grudgingly analyzes it. There was brilliance in the method, but also unpredictability. Chief chose destruction over survival, something Vader rarely sees outside of Sith philosophy. And yet, Vader feels an alien respect, sharpened by an undeniable irritation that human was not mine to command, nor could I have controlled him. Vader notices the crew around him, their pallor, their hands trembling over consoles. He sees fear he has not seen since the Clone Wars. It is primal, unfiltered, and it unsettles him. For the first time in decades, Vader cannot impose calm through sheer presence alone. He catalogs everything in tactical terms: intelligence, patterns, weaknesses. Even in retreat, the flood were an enemy that could think. And yet, we survived. We can return to the Empire. But we must never speak of this. This cannot exist in records. The galaxy is unprepared. A moment of silence, and then a question he cannot answer. If they exist elsewhere, if even a fraction remained, can the Empire withstand such a force? On the Executor, the corridors are eerily quiet. Stormtroopers hunch over their blasters, scanning airlocks and empty hallways. Most of their detachment was lost to unfamiliar weapons, towering brutes, and the monstrous hunters. The survivors exchange glances, but no words are spoken. One of them, a private, whispers in a trembling voice, I've never seen anything like that. Not even Mandalore, not even the Separatists. They think, and they fight. They use our dead as tools. Another, older, harder, mutters only, we got lucky to still be breathing. But there's nothing left of us that can go back and tell the truth. They realize quickly, this is a war they cannot understand. Orders mean nothing when the enemy adapts faster than protocol. Weapons they have never seen gravity-based, plasma-based, biologically enhanced, were everywhere. The survivors carry guilt, horror, and numbness in equal measure. Some stare at the monitors, seeing the flashes of the ring's destruction in the distance. The light is beautiful, but it means death, annihilation, and complete erasure. On the bridge, the officers avoid eye contact with one another. Communications are near silent. Attempts to scan the sector yield only remnants of the destroyed ring and scattered debris. Sensors indicate no immediate threats, but each officer knows this. The galaxy they left is smaller now, insignificant in the face of what they witnessed. A gunner murmurs to himself, "Everything we fought, the separatists, the rebellion, entire planets, none of it mattered out there. Nothing we know mattered." The first officer shakes his head. "We can't report this. No one would believe us. It's too much." Vader allows the silence to remain. Words are futile. Thought, observation, and cataloging are all that can survive. He orders the course to Imperial space, but even the warp engines feel pale, insufficient. The galaxy is unchanged, yet he and the crew are irrevocably altered. Stormtroopers, shock, trauma, survivor guilt, numbness interspersed with fleeting terror, recognition that their combat experience is utterly inadequate for such threats. Executor crew, awe, existential terror, inability to contextualize what they've seen, disciplined fear tempered by orders, recognition that imperial power is meaningless against forces truly alien to them. No one speaks of heroism. No one celebrates survival. They are changed. The Empire is unchanged, but the minds aboard the Executor have glimpsed something outside of the galaxy's understanding. The moment the ship stabilizes, back in its native galaxy, a priority encryption channel opens. Sidious demands a report before the Executor even finishes anchoring its shields. No surprise, he felt Vader slip out of the Force's visibility earlier, and he felt the return just as sharply. Vader stands alone in his hyperbaric chamber, helmet still scarred from plasma burns. His voice is steady, but the undertone is something Sidious hasn't heard from him in decades. Restraint. Not fear. Not hesitation. But the razor-edged discipline of someone who knows what he saw wasn't something that can be dismissed with dark-side bravado. "My master, I have encountered a civilization outside this galaxy," Vader begins. Sidious leans in not physically, but through the Force, testing Vader's emotional currents like a predator scenting blood. Vader doesn't blink. He outlines the first contact. The Covenant, a theocratic empire of multiple species, Sanghaili, Jiralhane, Ungoi, Kigyar, each engineered, trained, and armed with weapons that exceed most Imperial tech in specific combat roles. Plasma capable of melting durasteel in seconds. Starships that can glass continents. Infantry who can match or exceed stormtrooper training tenfold. Sidious registers interest, true interest, not performative. A disciplined enemy empire built on holy war? That's the sort of structure he can use or dismantle. Vader moves on. And the UNSC humans, tenacious. Strategically coherent under pressure, yet outmatched. Their technology is crude compared to ours, but their adaptability makes them dangerous. Sidious notes Vader's tone when describing the Spartan. Vader does not gush. He does not praise. But he speaks with precision. One of them. Designation. Spartan. II. Code name. Master Chief. A soldier created for absolute efficiency. His judgment in catastrophic conditions is comparable to the best of the Jedi generals. Sidious actually smiles at that in acidic little curve. Comparable to Jedi. That means this chief is someone Sidious would either recruit, manipulate, or immediately kill. But Vader continues. Then he describes the fall of Reach. Vader outlines. Plasma bombardment stripping continents. Covenant coordination beyond anything the Empire fields outside Thrawn's designs. Sanghaili tactical brilliance. The catastrophic collapse of UNSC positions. He does not embellish, and he does not traumatize. He details facts. Sidious listens without interruption, absorbing every detail like a historian cataloging a future conquest. Then Vader reaches the part he hates saying out loud. The flood. Everything shifts. The chamber gets colder. Sidious senses the tension in Vader's voice, not fear, but the strain of describing something that does not fit into the Sith's framework of dominance and willpower. Vader lays out the truth. This parasite is unlike anything in this galaxy. It consumes biological matter, corpses, wounded, entire populations. It assimilates knowledge, memory, skill. It learns instantly. He doesn't soften it. He doesn't hide the casualties. Stormtroopers, Covenant elites, Marines, all were taken. Their bodies were repurposed within minutes. Sidious's satisfaction evaporates. This is not an enemy he can manipulate, not a species he can twist, not a weapon he can refine. This is entropy incarnate, a civilization eater, a species that evolves faster than the Force can warn him. Vader continues. They are coordinated, strategic, not mindless. They communicate through a central intelligence, a grave mind, a singular awareness with the memories of every being it has consumed. Sidious's silence becomes oppressive. He is recalculating entire galactic strategies in real time. Vader ends with the destruction of the Halo Ring. The Spartan destroyed their installation. The ring, the weapon intended to contain the parasite. Its destruction was necessary. Sidious absorbs that. The UNSC soldier chose annihilation over containment. An act both pragmatic and inconveniently noble. Sidious hates noble, but he cannot deny the effectiveness. Sidious speaks only after a long silence, voice smooth but edged with something new, something very, very close to concern. These beings, these parasites, they threaten more than empires. They threaten existence. Vader waits. Sidious adds, "This flood must never reach our galaxy. You were wise to return."